Hey guys, it's me again. All right, so if you go now to your last slide, and I think up here at the top, I may still have the distance from shore. If it does, just change it. It should say water depth. So now we're going to take a look briefly at the zones by depth, which you can see over here in this red box. I know it's a little hard to see the words. We're going to actually write them here in the column, this first column, so it should help you to read what's in there. Let's go ahead and start with the top zone here. From about 0 to 200 meters, we're going to write that in the second column here, how far down it goes. You are going to need to know the order of these zones. I will ask you, what I'll give you probably usually letters, and you'll need to match them up with the name of the zone and what it's like there. This is called the epipelagic zone. I should probably mention this word pelagic. You are going to see that in all of the zones. This word, and we're going to actually write it right over here, means water. So when we're referring to the zones by depth of the water, we would use that word as part of these zone names. So epipelagic is the first one here. So this is where visible light exists. So most visible light exists here. Therefore, if we know that sunlight is reaching here, we're going to have organisms doing photosynthesis here as well. So photosynthesis takes place here. There's minimal pressure because remember that low pressure at the surface and higher pressure as you go down in the ocean. This is where you're going to have most ocean life and human activities like boating and fishing are going to occur in this zone. And this is also called the sunlight zone. So I'm going to actually put that in parentheses over here. You may see that term used as well, the sunlight zone. The next one down is from 200 meters down to 1,000 meters. This is called the mesopelagic zone. And another name for this is the twilight zone. We're going to put that in parentheses as well. This is also known as the twilight zone. So the light coming from the sun is very faint here. So we do have a little bit of light. Light that penetrates is very faint. This is where you're going to see temperature changing rapidly, that thermocline that we talked about yesterday. We do start to see organisms making their own light in this zone. So we may start to see that's called bioluminescence, organisms that make their own light. We would start to see that here in the mesopelagic. The next one down is called the bathypelagic zone. Another name for this is the midnight zone. So this is from 1,000 meters down to about 4,000 meters. There is no visible light from the sun here. It's dark, no light from the sun. Organisms here we will typically find, because there is no light, that they are red or black in color. Organisms are typically red, black in color due to the lack of light here. Temperature is pretty constant here. And we, again, as we started to see in the mesopelagic, we start to see here the lights coming from organisms. So bioluminescence, if there is light, it would be from organisms themselves here. The next one down is the abyss, or the abyssopelagic. And this is, let me shrink it so it fits. This is from 4,000 meters down to 6,000 meters. So this is where 3/4 of the ocean floor is in this zone. So 3/4 of the ocean floor falls in this zone. There is very few organisms here. There are organisms here, but very few. There is no light at all. It's very dark. And the abyss is actually a Greek word meaning no bottom because they thought that the ocean was bottomless. Again, like we talked about yesterday, very high pressure. It's very cold. We'll add very few organisms to our chart here. And then the last one here is the hadopelagic. Now, you're not going to hadopelagic. This is anything below 6,000 meters. So you may not have this. This is basically where trenches are found in canyons. So only in those areas would we consider that to be the hadopelagic zone. The majority of the ocean floor, especially the flat parts, would be the abyssopelagic. The hadopelagic is only in the deep water where trenches and canyons are. We have found life here, so life can be found here, and we'll take a look at who in a little bit. As we've mentioned, I believe, let me shrink this a little bit because you guys have the same chart, so I'll make this a little bit bigger. We mentioned, I think it was last week, about the deepest part of the ocean, the Marianas Trench. It's off of Japan. It's almost 11,000. It's about, I think, 10,994. So we rounded up to 11,000 meters, called the Marianas Trench. That is the deepest part. All right, so that is the end of the introduction I wanted to do on ocean zones. What you guys are going to do for the rest of the period, and I'll give you time tomorrow to work on as well. If you go to the file I've posted called Ocean Life Zones and Adaptations, it's another slideshow. It looks like this. What you're going to do is take a closer look at each of these, only the zones by depth. So you'll see I have on here epipelagic or the sunlight zone, the mesopelagic, etc. On each slide, you'll see I have a box, what it's like to live here. So for this box, you should be putting down, like, what is the temperature range? What is the pressure? Is there sunlight? Is there no light? Is there light from organisms? On the right-hand side, you're going to just jot down a couple. It doesn't need to be a very long list. So I would say like 2 to 3, you're good. 4, 5, that's fine. Probably more than 5, not necessary. Of who lives here. If there are any special adaptations, you can jot them down as well. But we want to just put together a list of some common organisms we would find in the different zones. And we'll talk a little bit about why they're found there, how they're able to survive, and then, of course, the rest of the year we'll be focusing on these different organisms. If you go back to slide 2, which I skipped over, I did put a couple links here. So you should be able to click on them and then click on the link there in blue. It'll take you to the website. Feel free to use your own websites. These are just 2 I found that gave a little bit more information than what I went over. So go ahead and take a look at these. Goes right down to the different zones. Some of them give examples of animals. You can always type in Google each of the zones and then see if there's a list of animals that way. You can work together with somebody if you want to. Here's the other website, which goes into, this one actually goes backwards. It starts with the hadopelagic, the trenches first. I can scroll down. And then goes all the way to the epipelagic. So this, once you're done with this slideshow, if you want to turn it in, we'll then share it together.